16 was kind of magical because it's like there was no expectations. Everything was spread.
Your dad, I think he understands that having a woman would be huge to present to the American people and pick up.
I think we always do pretty badly when we start using identity politics to make our decisions just to check a box. I don't think it's something that actually works. I think it's something that certain people want, but they're probably much more Democrat than us. I would be much more in favor of competency rather than checking a box. Everything's on the line in this. You see what these people are trying to do to our country. You see what they're doing on a daily basis. You see the lies that you're being fed. You see the suppression of anyone who stands up against that. That's actually worth fighting for.
All right, folks, welcome to the Sean Spicer Show. It is Friday. We've made it through the week, and what better place to be? We have a nice, amazing conversation for you. My guest today is Don Jr. You might have heard of him. His dad was the president and is currently leading the field as the Republican nomination moves forward from Iowa to New Hampshire. Big resounding win in Iowa. I want to get to him. As someone who was there in 2015, 2016, to get Don's impressions about where this thing ranks. And obviously beyond Iowa, it's just where does this go forward? What does he think about, all these people, all these players? And then the court cases and a lot more. So without further ado, you guys, obviously he's President Trump's oldest son. He is the EVP of the Trump Organization. He has done all sorts of business things, which is really cool. And I'm going to ask him about that. I want to find out, he now has a news aggregating site. He's got a book publishing deal where they put out winning books 45. Anyway, and he's obviously, big thing is he is the host of Triggered on Rumble. Without further ado, Don Jr. Hey, so it looks like you're not in New Hampshire, are you? You might have snuck a day down in Florida.
I'll be back in New Hampshire, but yeah, I actually managed to get home for like a couple of minutes. I
was gonna say, I'm sure once your dad sees this, he's gonna be like, "All right, get back up here." He obviously thanked you and Eric profusely and the rest of the team. Let me ask you this: you've seen everything since 2015, and your dad first came down the escalator. Where did Monday rank? Like in terms of feelings for you? Like was it like, okay, that was, if election night 2016 is the highlight, where was winning Iowa that big?
Listen, it always feels good. I think the reality is 16 was a different time, right? I mean, I got to the Iowa caucuses. I didn't know what a caucus was. It was like, when you know this well. I mean, when they started with Russia collusion, I'm like, we didn't know how to collude to order a cheeseburger. I was like, that's pretty sophisticated considering how little we actually know. But we got it done. And so, 16 was kind of magical because it's like there was no expectations. Everything was spread. When you're out campaigning in Iowa now in -40, you're like, oh God, I'm doing this again. but no, it's good. I'm feeling it a lot from the people. A lot of people, I think, that were pushed around and manipulated in 20 with the nonsense in the media. They see it. I mean, the last 3 years have been an abject failure. There's not a metric where we're performing well. We're at wars and this, and it never ends, and inflation and interest rates and people getting crushed. And they're like, oh, I get it. So I see people that were agnostic that just haven't been focused on politics actually get involved because they need to and they see what they're losing.
I've been ragging on Davos and the World Economic Forum, and then I see this interview the other day, Jamie Dimon talking about all the great things that happened under Trump. And I'm like, oh, crap, maybe I better stop ragging on it because he was like, more people are unemployed. Interest rates were lower. The border was secured. And I'm like, yes. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, and I mean, this is someone that they were trying to run, or many were trying to push to run against Joe Biden as a Democrat. He was like, no, Trump's policies were pretty good. And I mean, by the way, if they were intellectually honest at all, they'd get into much more detail. But yeah, I definitely didn't have that in my bingo card. This week that Jamie Dimon would be like, no, listen, Trump's policies were working. Right. And basically we're living in a disaster. And I certainly didn't see him do, you could see, I think it was MSNBC, or you could see him just like, these guys are gasping that they would say this because, there's no consequence to them in their lives as the Democrat Party destroys our country and everyone's financial well-being. But there is to real people. And for Jamie Dimon to get that was kind of interesting.
All right, guys, most of us know what it's like to be without power, sometimes for an hour, maybe a day, a couple days after a natural disaster, a hurricane, a windstorm, whatever. But now national security experts are warning that our power grid is more vulnerable than ever. And they've identified 9 key substations, which if attacked, they're saying we could lose power for months. That's why having your own solar power is more important than ever. So I recommend the Patriot Power Generator, which is a solar generator that you don't have to install in your house. It's portable. You can take it with you. You can use it inside your house. And it's powerful enough that if power goes out, we're talking your phones, your tablets, your computers, medical devices, even your refrigerator gets power. So if you go to 4patriots.com and use code SPICER, you get 10% off your first purchase. It's 4patriots.com, includes that Patriot Power Generator. You'll get that guarantee for a year, free shipping if it's over $97, and a portion of every sale is donated to charities that support veterans, right? That's great. So go to 4patriots.com, use code SPICER, 4patriots.com. You do not want to be without power in case something happens. So I want to stay on Iowa just for a little while longer before we move on. But I asked you about your feeling organizationally, and I remember this. I actually sat down with Corey Lewandowski. I think it was at a Wendy's or a Burger King right next to the Marriott in 2015, talking about the operation. I had been out there for the Iowa State Fair a couple of times, and people kept saying, holy smokes, exponentially, the Trump organization, the Trump ground game this time blows away. When you were out there, what did you see comparatively from this time versus last time?
I just think we know how to do this now, right? Like everything else, it's part of why they don't want Trump back in office, because when you come in with no knowledge, no real connections, no understanding of who's a snake and who's great, who's just telling you what you want to hear, and who's genuine, it's just so different. So when you have a team that does this, when they've done it in the past, it makes everything so much easier. So I think the organization, the operation, just so much better. I think between Chris LaCivita and Susie Wiles, the team is just it's rock solid right now, and it's really good.
So they had all these people doing the ground game. I saw them, asking people with 4x4s to take people. But beyond that, and beyond Iowa, it was funny. There's a quote that I want to read you. Obviously, someone you know very well. It was in a Washington Post story. It says the whole macro strategy from the beginning was to bait them being Haley and Desantis, to get into fights that were not important, said one of the agitators, Alec Bruzewitz, an online consultant who works with Trump's son, Don Jr., and spent his personal time. It was like the added element to this campaign seems like, let's figure out ways to push people's buttons to get them to react in certain ways.
Well, listen, I think we all have a little bit of fun with that. I mean, I did that as sort of a pretty solid internet troll myself, but the reality is you have to do those things. You have to call out the nonsense, right? And they do that. They expose themselves. Ron DeSantis, for the last year that he's been campaigning, had an online influencer crowd that I think probably destroyed his campaign in the end. But he was attacking Trump via them months before Trump even acknowledged it, when he was still pretending that he wasn't running, and when he was on the longest book tour in the history of book tours, and then having him and Nikki Haley, like two just very authentic, non-authentic individuals, sort of fight it out amongst themselves. I think there's a lot. And once people saw that, they realized it's like, neither of these people is what we were told, or neither of these people fulfill the image that was created by their influencers over time. And you hate to see it happen, but I'm glad it happened early.
So you were at one of the caucus sites and kind of, I don't know how you want, I'll let you phrase it, but you took Nikki Haley on directly. Talk to me about what you did. Was that planned? What did you say? How did you?
I imagine they wouldn't have put her campaign wouldn't have put her at a caucus location if she knew I was going to be speaking right after her, because I could do that. She hid backstage. I sat there in the middle of the people for 20 minutes before it all started, did a whole press charrette for, again, 20, 25 minutes. Took every question, answered them all. She comes in from backstage, runs, delivers a canned speech, runs out of the room, doesn't take any questions from the press, and hides, because that's the reality. But then I listened to her speech and I had the opportunity to respond. And when I did, I called out all the nonsense, the policies of, never-ending war and all of the things the Republican Party wants to get away from. Watching all of the Democrats on CNN saying they're switching party affiliations for 12 hours so that they can vote for Nikki Haley. Like, this isn't someone a conservative would want. This isn't someone who's America first. It's exactly the opposite.
Biden mega donors, Democrat mega donors are donating to Hillary Clinton. or Nikki Haley, which is basically the same thing. It's Hillary Clinton dressing up as a conservative for Halloween.
You know, the press reluctantly had to report that I got overwhelmingly better applause at the end of my speech than at the end of hers, because people understand real and genuine. I don't have a canned written out speech. I get up there, I feel out the crowd, I'll respond to them and go from there. And, that was palpable. And so I think it was pretty powerful.
Yeah, no, it got a lot of attention. And I think to your point, it got called out. Vivek dropped out that night. He showed up in New Hampshire, campaigned with your dad. I saw you put out a tweet thanking him. Let me ask you this. I had Jack Pasibic on the show the other day. We were talking about this dynamic of people getting on the Trump train, if you will. And it's a little different than 2015, I think, for kind of the point that you made earlier. It was new, it was different. People didn't know what they were buying into. Your dad hadn't been in politics. This time, I think you're seeing people recognize that it's over. It's, and it's almost like they want to come back and say, I made a mistake. I dated somebody else, but I still love you. I was asking Jack this. My opinion has always been politics is a game of addition. And so how do you welcome or not people who said, I was with DeSantis, I was with Nikki, or maybe I was critical of your dad, but I get it. And I want to come back.
Hey, listen, I'm fine with that. I mean, I think there are people that took it too far. There are people that just, and I know a lot of these, especially, some of the pure influencer base, because I probably helped create most of them, you know what I mean? Or boosted them for years. And then all of a sudden, they're getting, $1,000 a month from a campaign. And then they, but there is sort of a line, most of the people handled it well. And by the way, that's the nature of our side. We should be able to have these, differences and then come together, figure it out, because we all want to probably get generally to the same place. There's others that just tried making it personal and tried being vicious in this. So, the 99%, they'll come back, and guess what? The other 1%, if they're actually Republicans, they're still going to vote for Trump. But there was a little bit of a lesson in terms of who's an actual friend and who crossed that line of, like, we just have political differences, but we still get along. There are plenty of people that are, DeSantis folks that, hey, we text back and forth. They're still friends. We agree to disagree. But they'll always maintain that boundary of civility. There's others that took it too far that I just think they're genuinely bad people.
Is there anyone that you would like to maybe name that's a bad person?
No, they're dead to me. I wouldn't give them the credit. I wouldn't get them the attention at all. They're just never to be heard from again.
Hey, are you a professional that's running a small business, or maybe you know that person? Well, I've got an exciting new offer for you. It's called Ramp, and it will maximize productivity and cut wasteful spending from your business. Ramp is the corporate card and spend management software designed to save you money and put money back in the pocket of your company. Ramp gives finance teams unprecedented control and insight into spending money. It can add restrictions, limits, all those things that you want. It's a physical credit card that you get to give employees that you don't have to worry about, because you know where they can spend, how much they can spend. It's fantastic. Ramp saves you money. And here's the thing. Businesses that start with Ramp save on average 5% the first month. Who doesn't like that? It's easy to use. It's easy to get started. They issue virtual and physical credit cards, and you can start making payments in less than 15 minutes. Whether you have 5 employees or 5,000, Ramp is going to save you time and money. But here is the kicker. Whether you're that person or you know the person, if you go to ramp.com/Spicer, you get $250 just for signing up. $250 in your pocket. That's why you want to go to ramp.com/Spicer right now and sign up. By the way, cards are issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply. So what do you think the role right now? There's a lot of people asking what the role of Vivek, that, he was only trying to be Trump's VP. He really didn't. And I don't necessarily agree with that. But what do you see the role of Vivek being going forward?
Well, listen, he's going to be on my podcast tomorrow. So we're going to do that tomorrow at 6 p.m. on Rumble. So we'll ask. I think he's done a great job of actually combating the hostile media. He understands the notion of tech and how that's manipulated. I think he's done well, sort of embracing a younger generation. And I think just understanding that, I think he has a long way to go. I always said this, about Vivek even on my podcast, when they're asked, people, do we trust him? Do we not? I was like, I don't know. I love what he's saying. I think other than my father, the things that he's saying out there, was like significantly, he's just got a much better presence than, Iran, who's, very like robotic and not natural. I would like to have a beer with you people because a polling location told me that's what I should do to be likable. And Nikki Haley's just, was like created in a lab by, neocon warmongers. And so, Vivek has that natural appeal, and he's really good at that. I always said, though, I don't know, because I don't know where he was in 16 or 18 or 20 or even really 22. Now, he was a business guy. So were we.
Right. I was going to say, it's a very similar story. So
I'm not holding that. I didn't hold it against him. I just don't know. Some of this stuff is based on trust, and you need a little bit of that runway, right? That track record of standing up for these things. But I love the way he's handling the media. I love the way he's looking at these things. So, there's definitely a role now and probably later, as well. And listen, I'd love to see Vivek in there blowing up some of these corrupted institutions with government, because I think he'd actually do an awesome job at that. So, I don't yet know, but I think it'll be fun. And I'll get into it with him tomorrow quite a bit.
So if your dad said, hey, Don, you had him on your podcast, you've talked to him a few times. What do you think of him as a VP? What do you think?
Listen, we have to see, right? You've been there, right? There's it's an evolutionary process in a lot of these things. But I mean, that would definitely be a consideration. I mean, that would definitely be someone that's on the list. And to your point about addition earlier, sometimes, you have someone who's, hey, they get you something in politics, right? I don't know that the VP's ever really probably been all the difference in terms of a presidential election. I'd love to see in some sort of agency position or head of something to be able to, again, clean out the trash that needs to be taken out in Washington, D.C. But yes, that could be a role that you could do as vice president and be quite useful. So, it would certainly be a consideration.
Conversely, it was interesting. You've been very clear. If your dad called you and said, what do you think about Nikki Haley? And I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but what I've heard you say is you would be very much like, Dad, we need to talk. I can't let you do this. I'll let you speak for yourself on this. So is she a non-starter as far as you're concerned?
It's not my decision, but I don't think, this is not someone you need on there. I think you've seen the backstabbing going on. Can you imagine that team propped up by the Democrats, backstabbing, questioning, leaking everything forever? I just don't think it could actually work. And so I don't think it's an issue anymore, frankly. So I don't know that it ever was really. When the Desantis influencers start pushing stuff like it's real, it's just, part of the psyop. So I never really bought into it all that much anyway. But that would be someone I'd be very vocally against. And that's just based on everything she's done.
I she didn't want to stay in the cabinet to begin with in the first place. I don't know why she'd want to be vice president. And I think to your point, it's not like I don't see the qualities that your dad's looking for as things that.
Yeah, I think the backstabbing that would come from that, that's the ones that the rhinos, they would try to make sure, all of the rhinos in the Senate would vote to impeach Donald Trump on day one for no reason, just to put her in there and plant their own puppet in there. So I don't think we need that.
So I want to play the game a little. I had Steve Bannon on a little while ago. I love this because everyone wants to know the thinking of this. I believe that your dad he understands imagery, people, message better than anybody. And I think he understands that having a woman would be huge to present to the American people and pick up a lot of demographics. Okay. Do you share that view or not?
I think it's helpful. I think we always do pretty badly when we start using identity politics to make our decisions just to check a box. I don't think it's something that actually works. I think it's something that, certain people want, but they're probably much more Democrat than us. And so I don't know that you're getting any of those people anyway. I would be much more in favor of competency rather than checking a box. I mean, half my existence these days is calling out like the BS of DEI and all of this stuff. Because, hey, I'd like my pilot to be able to fly a plane, not someone who was chosen because, they're purple and, have multiple reproductive organs. It's not what I'm into. So I don't believe in it as a system. I think it's failed corporate America. I think it continues to fail America. I think our Chinese counterparts and enemies across the world love watching us do this thing. So I'd love not to implement it. Now, that's not saying that there's not countless competent females or African Americans or Hispanics that could take up any one of these positions. It's just, I don't want to make decisions solely on that because I think it's ridiculous.
Right. Okay, fair enough. But okay, so let's go down some of those competent women. I mean, my four that I think sort of fill out that, if you're going down that road, would be Kristi Noem, Elise Stefanik, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and Marsha Blackburn. Anyone objectionable on that list?
No, I don't. I mean,
anyone you want to add?
There's actually others I want to add, but I want to speak to my father. But I could name a dozen. There's people that are doing great things in those things again. But I wouldn't be choosing them because they're a woman. I want to choose them because they're the best person for the role. Same thing, with a cabinet. The same thing with, there's just so many great guys out there. I mean, if you talk about, Byron Donalds and Wesley Hunt, African Americans that are just out there, just great conservatives, just absolute killers, funny, brilliant, but I'm not choosing because I'm just picking because they're good at what they do and they're awesome.
Correct. No, and I think that's the beauty of it, is that when Joe Biden chose Kamala Harris, he said, I'm going to choose a black woman. Here's the entire universe that consisted of.
She was polling at 1%, Sean. She was literally not going to come in the top 5 in the Democrat primary, and she was going to be out. But, she checked off a box. She can be multiple ethnicities and races to be able to check it off. And they literally said that's why they chose her. And now look, honestly, it was probably the best decision Joe Biden ever made because it actually meant his position is totally safe.
I agree with
you. Democrats, even they are oh my God, she's terrible. The word salad conversation, she's not giving a speech that people aren't literally mocking as just another woke, ridiculous word salad, diarrhea of the mouth. It's ridiculous. So, maybe it was actually a good choice for him, even though, I don't know that she's actually done anything other than embarrass the administration and the Democrat Party. But they deserve some embarrassment given the shame they brought on this country.
Yeah, it was the ultimate job security. People praying for Biden because they're that's next. Yeah. Let me ask you about the media, right? And I 30 minutes after the Iowa caucuses, I tweeted out, this is ridiculous that they were calling it over. And the reason I said that is because your dad was very clear the day before. You got to go out, you got to vote. And he was funny about it. He said, even if you're dying, go do it. And my thought was, this is media. People hadn't even given, I don't even know if you had given your speech. I
think I was in the midst of giving my, I get what you're saying a little bit, but we got to also remember this isn't like when they do it in Arizona and they're calling it before and people are voting. Caucusing is different, right? You don't vote throughout the day where you show up at one time, you're basically in the room. So you're already there. So it's not like it was I'm just not going to go vote because they're already there. So it's a little bit of a different situation. And it was just based on the entrance polling. And when the entrance polling was that much of a blowout, it's basically, hey, we're calling this thing, but everyone's already in the rooms. I don't know that it actually dissuaded anyone. And frankly, if they're calling it for Trump, that probably means the Trump people are actually more likely to be pushed. So who knows what actually happened with that? I don't think it actually changed anything.
No, I don't think it. But what I wonder is if I've driven to a caucus site and I know that I've got to listen to, the Trump person, the Haley person, the Asa Hutchinson person, the Ryan Brinkley person, and I go, I got 2 kids at home that have homework, and I just got a push notification that says Trump won. Oh, okay, I can go home because he obviously.
You're basically already in the room by the time it happened, right? So there was no more coming in. There was no more hey, I'm driving there now. I'm going to turn back around. You're already in the room now. Maybe you walk out of the room early because it's okay, well now I'm done. But I think again, you're already captive, so it doesn't have the same effect.
I agree.
As, Arizona, where they called it, and it was 1,500 votes over a state of 1 million people, and there's litigation 3 years later that's still ongoing. This isn't exactly the same. It's it's not like this was even close.
Fair enough. But are you concerned? Let's take it a step further. I was watching your dad's speech. I'm flipping around and I wanted to see how CNN covered it, so I flipped over there. And he's halfway through thanking everybody. Here are my sons. Here's this great team. The Attorney General of Iowa. I appreciate her. And all of a sudden, Jake Tapper pulls out and says, "Well, we're not going to sit there and listen to anti-immigrant talk."
Here he is right now under my voice. You hear him repeating his anti-immigrant rhetoric.
I'm thinking, wait a second. That's he's literally trying to explain his campaign going forward. You don't want people to hear that message. I think CNN's afraid of that.
Oh, 100%. They want, because like I said, regular people are getting it, right? If Jamie Dimon's getting it over at Davos at the World Economic Forum, listen, the policies were actually pretty good. That's what they do. They're fear mongering these things. Joy Reid, everything's racist, right? Just I want Americans to succeed. Oh my God, that's racist. It's the gaslighting has gotten so ridiculous, so extreme. It's actually probably doing us a favor at this point because people, they get it now, right? 10 years ago, if they called you a racist, it was a real problem. Now it's like, it's the left's answer for everything. It's the political easy button of the radical left. Just, you're racist, you're transphobic, you're like, no, I'm just not saying, like, it just, they've overplayed their hand. And so I don't think it matters, but make no mistake. Jake Tapper, who pushed Russia, Russia, Russia as though it was real for years. The other people who suppressed the Hunter Biden laptop knowing it was real. The intelligence officials and agencies doing it. Like, that's the left. Everyone's a fascist except for the people actually trying to jail their political opponents. What? Like, I don't understand. I think people understand the lies. They're sort of over it. And, I'm not too worried about it, but don't make no mistake. They're going to do whatever they can to try to stop Trump from getting these things. It's why they're pushing the nonsense they do.
I agree. All right, folks, I want to tell you about my friend Leo Grillo. If you've been watching the show for a while, you know about Leo and all the great work that he does at Delta Rescue. You can go to deltarescue.org, take a look at the videos, an amazing no-kill sanctuary. Leo Grillo has made a life out of saving, protecting, nurturing abandoned animals, dogs, cats, you name it. Delta Rescue is a mission of his. It's a passion of his. If you're an animal lover like me, if you've rescued dogs, if you've rescued cats, then you're going to want to check out the amazing work of Delta Rescue. You go to deltarescue.org. There's videos, there's testimonials. You can see what I'm talking about. It is the world's largest no-kill sanctuary. It's not a shelter. It's a sanctuary. This is where animals can live in perpetuity. They can get the nutrition they need, the care they need, the support they need. And it's all because Leo Grillo made it his lifelong mission. And it's only supported through donations like me and you, $5, $10, $100. But there's also a way that we can make this mission that Leo has created a lifelong one, an enduring one. And that's if we go to deltarescue.org and check out the estate kit that they put there. Download it, see if it works for you, if it can be part of your financial future planning. Go to deltarescue.org, hit that estate guide. Also, think about a contribution. Help Leo Grillo and the great work that Delta Rescue does to take care of these abandoned animals. You mentioned the Hunter Biden laptop. It was amazing this week. After all the crap that went, he denied it. These 51 intelligence officers or officials said that it was Russian disinformation. The Department of Justice, in an official filing, said it was his laptop dropped off at a store in Delaware. I want to just ask you this as a son, as sort of the equivalent, right? There was nothing. I remember on a flight back, I think we were coming back from Italy, and it was like, there's new reporting that Don had this meeting and da-da-da-da. And everyone rushed to judgment. And you were guilty until proven innocent over and over again in anything that you guys did, the business dealings that may or may not have continued. And yet here's Hunter Biden saying, I don't know if that's my laptop, maybe not. I threw a gun away or in a trash can that I lied on the form on, but it was near a school. Over and over again. And I just, from your perspective, having been in a similar situation for 4 years, do you look at this stuff and say, like, how many times do you laugh or do you go, you've got to be kidding me?
Well, I take it more personally because, like, for example, with the avoiding the congressional subpoenas, like I did 50 hours in front of 5 committees, you know what? Because I'm a man. You're going to
you didn't realize it was optional.
I'll go answer the questions. I'm not a 50-year-old baby like Hunter. There's a difference. And so I went in there and did that. But yeah, I do take it a little bit more personally because Russia was literally a Democrat lie turned into the truth, by the media and big tech as though it was real. We went in there, answered for all of those things. They drag it out for 3 years to try to hurt my father, the administration, and ultimately the American people. And this guy who's actually selling out to the Chinese and he's on every board, they don't exactly invest in crackheads in China. That's not what they do. They're smarter than that. But yet Hunter Biden made millions. You saw the art dealer. Oh no, Hunter never sold any art until his dad became president. And it's like, once it's not president, we would never sell any more of his art. Like, it's all one big scam. If any one of these dozens of stories, any one of the things from the laptop, any one of the was Don Jr., not only would it be relevant, it would be impeachable, and rightfully so. And yet, they're pretending like these things didn't happen. And he's not involved in the administration. Well, I wasn't either. I got dragged in by those people, and I still held up to it. I went after, I fought back. He's hiding, and they're using the DOJ as his cover. It's a little different. If Hunter was held to the Don Jr. standard, he'd be in Gitmo right now.
That's, like I said, sometimes I have to laugh at this stuff because I cannot believe. I mean, you've got Hunter, I've got cringe Jean-Pierre, where I look sometimes and go, you've got to be kidding me. If I could have gotten away with that, it would have been amazing. But the thing that's fascinating,
we're just not going to talk about that. Okay, next, and everyone in the okay, whatever you say, we will do your bidding. Give us the lying talking points so that we can spread the propaganda out there. It's insane.
So you guys built this company, and you've got golf courses, hotels, all these other iconic properties. I get a kick out of this case in New York where they're trying to fine you and to put you guys out of business. This goes back to the same principle that I was asking about Hunter. Like, it's laughable, but it's actually happening. How concerned are you guys about what you've built and what New York and Tish James is trying to do?
Well, you're extortion record, right? They're just going to fine you for this. It doesn't matter. We don't need a jury. We're just going to decide. We're not the supposed victim is a bank that testified on our behalf. That, like, what are you talking about? They were an incredible client. They paid all their stuff back, right? We wanted to do more business with them, not less. No, you are a victim, and we're going to take $500 million for Trump. But when it's set up, the same thing with all of them, right? They're jury picking, right? They're in Atlanta, right? Fannie Willis, she can pay her boyfriend to be the DA, and he's never tried, a case criminally, but we'll do that. He'll take me on lavish vacations after I spend, $750,000 of Georgia taxpayer money. We will choose the Florida case jury and do the indictments in D.C. where we can stack it together. Like, everyone sees that it's all nonsense. I mean, you play the Jean Carroll TV clips. That's her on TV, trying to be not insane and polished and stuff like that. Imagine what she's really like. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because they choose, and you're not allowed to show those videos to the jury because the fact that they'd probably come to the conclusion that she's nuts, it would be debilitating to the Democrat, campaign contribution that all these liberal judges are making. So, it's so ridiculous. I think people are seeing through it. I hope they do. I think they'd actually been much more effective if they picked one real thing and actually tried to focus on it. But when it's hey, all this nonsense, magically, years later, no one actually filed a complaint in the New York one.
No victim.
On behalf of the banks who got paid back and never missed a payment, who are actually going to testify on your behalf, we're going to sue you anyway for, $1 billion and try to get you to never stop doing business in New York. And these are Gestapo tactics. These are fascist dictatorships. But in New York City, guess what? That's what happens. In a place like that, if even New York's not even a jury, maybe one of them is. But how do you get a fair jury? A, they're 99% hate your guts politically. And B, if you're the one conservative, on the jury, you could never go back you couldn't go to your kids' schools again if you were the person that let Trump go. And it's just easier to throw him under the bus because our life's easy. None of it's not designed to be fair.
But let me get back to the question. Are you concerned about what you guys built? I get it. I look at this and I'm like, this is insane. There is no victim. The banks are testifying on your behalf, as you put it, because they got paid back. They made their money. But at the end of the day, and you're right, you've got a jury pool that's against you. But I would still look and say, after all that you guys have built, do you sit back as the son, as an EVP of the Trump organization, concerned that this DA, the Attorney General, is trying to make it all go away?
Listen, I'm concerned because it's big numbers, right? We'll figure out, we will survive. But it's literally just an extortion racket, and that's the cost of being vocal in politics. My father's willing to pay that price because he's fighting for things that are far more important than just money. I mean, this is everything's on the line in this. You see what these people are trying to do to our country. You see what they're doing on a daily basis. You see the lies that you're being fed. You see the suppression of anyone who stands up against that. That's actually worth fighting for. When you look at what's going on in Canada, when you look at what's going on in the UK, where they'll jail you for 2 years for misgendering someone, when you see what they did in New Zealand and Australia and the lockdowns, you're like, wait a minute, we're the last bastion of some of this stuff, and so much of it is actually at risk. So, we're going to keep fighting and we're going to keep going. But yeah, listen, it's, not a lot of businesses can say, oh yeah, just, what's $500 million? Just write a check to, a corrupt DA. Like, it's not easy. It sucks, but we got to keep fighting.
So after you left, there was a lot of talk when your father first got elected in New York about Don Jr. potentially running for office, for governor, all this. You obviously decamped to Florida. Has that changed your mind about running? I mean, obviously a much friendlier territory to be in Florida. Has that changed any of your thinking about entering politics or
I'm already in politics, whether we like it or not.
Yeah. How about this? Running, putting your name on a ballot.
Actually running. Not so much. You got to want the day job too. I sort of like doing the stuff that most of the Republicans are bad at, which is actually like fighting and like, getting after it and calling out the nonsense. Everyone else is easier to roll over and die. But you also got to want the day job and actually have to deal with some of those things. So, maybe one day I never want to turn it down. I'd never say no. And, man, you look at the way we're going, maybe you actually need that person who's actually willing to fight that way, doing that. In the meantime, I'm going to focus on helping those, whether it's my father or others who actually will fight, to get into office. I'm going to stay in the game one way or the other, but actually doing it myself, I won't say no, but you never know.
So Don, when you got into this in 2015, you were obviously a huge surrogate and helped your father in the campaign. You come out of this on the other end, you've got this very successful show on Rumble called Triggered. You've published books. Now you've got winning books. You've got a publication site. You've got a news aggregating site. Like, how has this whole experience, you came into this as a business guy, right? You built things and now you've kind of really built a ton of other things. What has this experience done for you as a business person? And what do you now from a enjoying business standpoint enjoy now? Like, I mean, is it still I'm spending X amount of time on the Trump organization or what is it that you've now evolved into?
It's a little mix. I mean, I think I've just seen how penalizing corporate America has frankly been to the people and to patriots and people who believe the stuff that you and I believe. And so I wanted to make sure we did that. The publishing company started because I saw guys, congressmen and stuff like that, they were writing a book and they got paid enough front, and the publishing company is like, that's too conservative. We're going to keep them. We're going to keep the book, but we're never going to publish it. Keep your money, be gone. I mean, they were literally out there censoring people. So I was like, well, I got to create something. I had some successful books of my own. I was like, we got to give something and someone a venue to be able to get this message out. What I'm doing with Public Square, just linking like-minded patriots so that, like, if you want to spend your hard-earned dollars somewhere, you're not giving it to woke corporate who's going to literally be donating to money to the people and to the causes that would put you in the gulags. That's a big deal. But, you're not going to get that on Amazon. So, I met with Michael Seifert from Public Square. I was like, hey, these are the guys you got to talk to. The network. And so now, I mean, it took them public on the New York Stock Exchange. It just sort of snowballed because there's a lot of people. But we have to vote with our wallets. Not just vote in elections, but we have to vote with our wallets. We have to stop giving the corporate America, the companies that hate your guts, your money. Find that small business. That was a big part of Public Square, like just sending people to small businesses so they can find out who shares their values. Put that person's kid through like hockey practice or whatever it is, as opposed to, giving it to some billionaire, tech enterprise, so it's just a passion project for me. I mean, I guess it's still political. It's not even business. I just believe in these things. I didn't need this crap. I could have stayed silent. I could have been a New York guy. I could have, hey, if I wanted to make money, I would have come out against my father in 2016 and been used as the ultimate weapon of the radical left. But I actually believe in these things. But I do also have the business background and experience to be able to help these other guys get to that level so that we can, not to overuse a cliche, but like kind of essentially service the patriots of America, the patriot economy, let them understand there are others like you. There are people out there. So, that's really what I've been so focused on right now, because I think, beyond just voting and winning elections, you take away the purse, no different than Congress. Right? If you take away the purse from those, mega, $1 trillion entities that we are literally fighting against on a daily basis, they're going to be a lot less apt to go after you. They're going to be a lot less apt to just say, hey, we're monitoring your bank account. We're just going to shut you down. We're not going to, the stuff that's going on. I mean, this is communist China level stuff. It is happening here in America. And so, That's a big part of my stuff. I almost look at it like the politics because I understand how important the money factor is in politics. You pull that money when there's one guy, Donald Trump, out there by himself taking all the slings and arrows. They can cancel that person. They did that. You saw that. You were there. Yeah. 175 million Americans, half the country, band together and say enough is enough. That's compelling. That's why I'm on Rumble and not elsewhere. I turned down, major TV things that they're like, well, you do that for probably a lot more money. But no, because I know the second I stop saying the narrative, even, sort of the, corporate conservative side, that's not exactly conservative, but pretend to be, if I'm not going with the gospel, they'll throw me out on my butt in 2 seconds. And I'm not willing to, bastardize my standards for that. I'm going to say what I want. That's why I'm on Rumble. So, there are venues out there. We just got to expose the American public to that. Once they see that, once they start supporting it, that voting with your wallet is a big aspect to turn the things around in our country that really need turning around.
All right. Don, thanks for all your time today. I really appreciate it. Best of luck on the campaign trail and in New Hampshire.
Thank you very much, Sean. Good to be with you.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. I actually want to pick up where he ended. It was interesting because I've never asked him about it. And he was talking about this idea that he could have gone to a lot of places, I'm sure, in terms of like either, some conservative TV network or whatever, but you're constantly walking a minefield. And we've talked about this when I launched this show. Having an independent show where you are dependent on people like you and sponsors that have been great for the show gives me the freedom to have the guests on, the topics. I don't have to worry about being canceled. We're on YouTube and we're on Rumble. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify. We're going to get that message out. I mean, so if you want to watch us on Rumble, watch us there. If you want to watch us on the First every night at 7:00, watch us there. But that's the beautiful thing about this. I'm not worried about some corporate overlord coming down from HR or the counsel's office to tell me I can't talk about this or I have to talk about that or I can't have that guest. Don's absolutely right. Think about what he's done with Public Square. And Kimberly, by the way, was apparently also involved in that. But this is giving us a marketplace. We don't like what's happening at Nike. Don't go buy them. Buy shoes that aren't done. Don't go to Target. Check out all the stuff at Public Square. They're not a sponsor of the show. I hope they will be at some point. But he's right. You can go buy products that are in line with your values. You hear about things that I agree with all the time. All the sponsors on the show are products that I use, people that I've talked to. And they're for a reason. They believe in the values of this. And that's why I really appreciate if you use them, if you support them, because we're building this. And I think he's right. You can create platforms and things where we don't have to worry about being canceled, and we can do this. That's what they President Trump did with Truth Social. It's a hedge. Up until Elon bought Twitter, it's a place that you could go and know that you couldn't get canceled. I also thought it was interesting. I mean, just how he's viewing all of the things that are going on with the cases. I mean, it's true. Think about this. He says built, whether you like the Trump, family or Donald Trump himself or not, they build all these buildings, these golf courses. They rescued that ice rink. And here we have, by any account, this would be considered weaponizing the justice system. What she is doing, it doesn't make any sense. There is no victim. And they're going to undo this with a massive fine. You know who's going to get hurt? The employees of the Trump organization. People who go to work every day. It's amazing that this is happening. I want to just real quick, obviously thank Don for his time, but next week, we're going to head into New Hampshire. It's Tuesday night. 22 delegates are at stake. I don't think it's going to matter, but one of the big differences, and I've been talking about this before, in New Hampshire, they have a 10% threshold. If you don't get 10%, you get nothing. Now, that might make a difference for Ron DeSantis. Right now, he's not there. So that would be kind of interesting. That unlike Iowa, there is a threshold. If you don't get 10%, you get nothing. So we're going to have a lot to talk about as we get ready. We're going to have some New Hampshire experts on the show. We're going to break down the system where we are. And then frankly, after you leave New Hampshire, you're going into February. 8th is when Nevada, see, I'm getting that right, and the Virgin Islands, 30 delegates will be at stake on the 8th. And then we have to wait for the 24th. The 24th of February, a month later, we hit South Carolina where 50 delegates are at stake. I doubt DeSantis or Haley even make it that far, but we will break it all down for you next week. I appreciate you being with us and joining us through this journey. Continue to share, subscribe. Even if you're listening on the First or on YouTube or Rumble, please go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe and hit that notification button and rate us 5 stars. It helps us a ton. So please just do that just because it's the weekend and you need something to do and you want to help us. I appreciate all your support. Feel free to join our VIP community. We have talks every week. SeanSpicerShow.com/VIP. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.